Hello! Hi there, friend. Welcome to Landscape Elevation. I'm Charlene Gray. On this channel, I visit with you each week to talk about all things landscape design. Whether you're just getting started your side hustle or you're already a pro and you have a number of seasons under your belt, I hope the things I talk about are helpful to you. Now today, I'm going to talk about hand drafting. And specifically what I mean by hand drafting is drawing out your landscape plans on paper by hand. The way this works is you use your hand as an extension of your brain to relay your design vision onto paper. Now, I'm sure there are folks out there who consider the art of hand drafting completely obsolete, especially since in this day and age we have easy access to CAD programs, CAD standing for computer-aided drafting, and other design softwares specific to landscape that appear to make the design process super easy. Well, they may be partially right, but in my opinion, they are also partially very wrong. If you know anything about me by now, it's that I rarely hold an all or nothing black or white stance on things. Usually, I find there is a very large gray area between most issues, and depending on individual circumstances, that gray area has various shades. And this is one of those things, hand drafting versus CAD drafting. So let me be 100% upfront and clear on one thing. I am 100% for using CAD software to assist with some parts of the design process. Those parts include importing surveys, creating scaled base maps to use as an underlay during the act of designing, and also finalizing the design to be presentation quality that can be shared digitally or printed. Myself, I use a CAD program. It's called Vectorworks Landmark, and it absolutely saves me a ton of time when it comes to preparing to design, and then again when it comes to presenting a design. But notice that I didn't say I use the CAD to actually design. That's right, I don't use CAD or any other computer software to do my actual designing. Excuse me. And it's the actual act of designing that is really the only thing I'm against using CAD and other softwares for, and here's why. I believe the gift of giving a human the experience of a landscape is a gift that can only be created by a human. A computer has no business creating a landscape experience for a human, because to truly experience a landscape, you'll be aware of what one or more of your five senses is experiencing. So your sight, your hearing, touch, smell, taste. And quite simply, a computer program doesn't have these senses, and so it isn't capable of combining them in any meaningful way for humans as the human moves through a landscape or sits in any outdoor space. So because of this, today I'm going to share with you 3 reasons why hand drafting is still very much a skill worth pursuing to create your landscape designs. And I'll also talk about how these reasons relate to using CAD or other design software. So the first reason, number 1, hand drafting doesn't have much of a learning curve. Hand drafting is an artistic skill, so it absolutely does take practice, which does take time. But there is not a huge learning curve. If you can maneuver a pencil, you may need to fine-tune your strokes and your flow, but you can achieve this in time if you practice. But there isn't a lot of learning involved with hand drafting. On the flip side, with CAD, it's like any other computer software program. You will need to take the time to learn how to use the program before you can get much of any benefit out of it. And trust me, you will want to learn as much as you can before you start depending on it. So with that, there could be a tipping point in terms of your time when the time you're spending editing drawings by hand could have been negated if you took the time sooner to actually learn a software program. So it's a toss-up, something to consider as you decide your preferred medium. So second benefit of hand drafting is the low upfront cost. Hand drafting is definitely a less expensive way to get started as a landscape designer. Well, depending on how much you like using colored markers, but for the most part, drafting supplies are cheap money and they are something that you own. Flip side, with CAD and other software programs, many of them operate as a subscription service now, meaning you pay to use them per month or per year, to use their program. So on top of that, you need to have an internet connection while using the software. So I've seen monthly costs of up to $200 or more per month, depending on the program and the features that you choose to have. Now there may be exceptions out there for software that you can actually purchase, but as of now, I'm not aware of what they are. So the third benefit of hand drafting is the artistic nature of hand-drawn landscape plans in and of themselves. So hand drafting gives you the freedom to express your talent and just design. You don't have a complex tool disrupting or breaking this, that circuit connection between the vision you have in your mind and the illustration of your vision that conveys your ideas to others that you've put onto paper. So you can just let your ideas flow and you can let them evolve, and it is this process of just letting your design flow and evolve that will tease out eventually the best design that you can come up with. But it is a process, and committing to that process is just what we do as designers. So when you use your eyes and your hand to coordinate together to illustrate your vision, you get to tweak your design until it feels right. So remember I talked about the five senses? It's about a feeling. And when you're drawing, you actually live through that thought experiment of visualizing, experiencing the space. And you get to imagine which of your senses will come out to play as you move through a space or you sit in the space as you're designing. And that's why one of my favorite things about hand drafting is that your drawing doesn't take on a finished look before it is actually finished. In my opinion, this is one of the major drawbacks to designing with computer software. It always looks finished. You could have just started and it looks finished. So you but also your clients can be tricked into thinking that you have a great design when really it's just crap disguised as pretty colorful images. And another problem with your design looking finished before it actually is that you or your clients may be hesitant to make changes. And when I say changes, I mean making those positive edits or tweaks that will actually enhance the design as you go through the process, and you either learn more or you see more along the way as you work to get the best design that you can get. So, all right, those were my three main reasons and benefits behind hand drafting landscape plans. But don't get me wrong, CAD and other design software can absolutely play an important and efficient role in the design process, as long as those programs are used as a tool for displaying an already well thought out design. So in other words, the designer still has to be in charge of creating that thoughtful and intuitive design and not just making lines that look neat on a screen, but that don't actually work for people using the landscape in real life. And sadly, I'm finding that too many designers aren't honing their design ability and therefore their design outcome when they rely solely on computer software to do the work for them. And this leads to crappy designs and dead plants. So by crappy designs, I mean not intuitive to the user, improper or disproportionate flow of spaces, not using space efficiently, or even worse, useless space, not taking advantage of focal points, seas of mulch between plantings, the list goes on. So all of that being said, the positives that CAD and computer drafting has over hand drafting are, in my opinion, two things. So the ability for you to import files to create a base map. The base map is the is the bottom of your design stack. So you can import Google Earth images. Google Earth are those overhead shots. You can import site surveys, and you can import building footprints from architects' plans. So all of those help you set up a scaled base map to actually design on to scale effectively. And number two, the benefit of CAD is its efficiency. So edits are super easy, and design plans need to change. They always will change. And if you've gone so far in a design before you realize you need to make edits, it's a bummer when you have to change things by hand. So editing on computer-aided software is super helpful and efficient. Another way that CAD is efficient is you can easily share files among your collaborators, architects, other landscape people who are working with you, and clients, and those are quick shares, just through email or uploads. And then also, you can easily store your project files on your computer or in cloud services, so you don't have all these sheets of paper flying around that you can lose. So, if you've been wondering whether you may be obsolete because you would simply prefer to draw your landscape plans by hand for whatever reason, my answer would be definitely not. CAD is absolutely not necessary, although it is efficient sometimes, to create beautiful outdoor spaces that humans love to be in. So if you just consider the fact that landscape design has been a thing since the Hanging Gardens of Babylon back in the 6th century BC, and CAD has just come into our world within the last 70 years or so. So drawing gardens by hand is pretty much the norm until recently. And also, I'll just say that depending on your client's preferences, they may actually appreciate and maybe even prefer to see your unique hand-drawn landscape drawings. Whenever I show clients a drawing I've created by hand, they are, one, super surprised to even see it, and two, they usually compliment it, and they make a joke about, it's some sort of artistic display or whatever. Anyway, so like I said earlier, I do use both hand drafting and computer drafting for most of the design projects I work on. I go back and forth between the two, using each medium for different parts of the design process. But that's something I can introduce you to in another video. So there you have my take on using hand drafting for creating landscape designs. Basically, yes, please do this, if only when you're actively designing. But you don't have to shut CAD out of the equation completely, since it does offer so much in terms of efficiency. Just please, for the sake of bringing joy to others in your landscapes, don't rely on it to actually design for you. Okay, so thank you so much for joining me and for watching Landscape Elevation. If this content interests you and you find value in it, you might find value in the free guide I've made, which is 16 pages of walking you through getting started on the design process. The link is below. It's at my website, landscapeelevation.com, and it is completely free. And also, I love hearing from folks in the landscape design community. If you're a designer and you have questions or a conversation to start, please share them in the comments. So thank you again and take care. I'll see you next time.